Hello, everybody. Welcome back. So today I wanted to talk about my chess books, and the chess books that I've written, and what kind of success that I've had with my chess books, what the reviews have been like, and all that kind of stuff. Because I'm currently working on another book, and it's really about numbers in chess and trying to help amateurs improve, and whether you can use statistics to improve your performance. But I think the story of my first chess book was actually wrote a book called. I actually got a contract to write Easy Guide to the Najdorf. So obviously Easy was probably quite popular at that time because of the whole EasyJet was just taking off, right? I got a contract, and that would have been from Everyman Books possibly, which would have been John Nunn and Murray Chandler. So I think it might have been John Nunn who approached me.
It was Bazzini who approached me. Bazzini.
I can't remember exactly, or it might have been Graham Burgess. Graham Burgess was involved, but unfortunately, I think I got a bit too stressed. So I got the advance even before I'd actually written anything, or got some of the advance, and but then I got too stressed about the whole thing, and I wasn't able to. I just suddenly realised how much work would have been involved in it. This would have been early 2000s. I never wrote the book. I had to send back the advance, which is kind of embarrassing, right? And of course, then you got the embarrassment of not actually writing the book. Um, and Tony Costin ended up writing that book. He did a good job, of course. So then I'm thinking for years afterwards that this is a total disaster, of course. But then I decided actually I'm going to write a chess book. So I wrote Calculate Like a Grandmaster. So I wrote this book. I wrote it on spec, and I sent it to New in Chess, and I sent it to other publishing companies. I sent it to a company called Anova Books, which used to be Batsford Books. But Anova also publish other, chess books they don't really publish. It's mainly other stuff. But Batsford essentially became Anova Books, or they got merged into Anova Books. But New in Chess were taking a while to reply, so eventually I decided to I decided to go with Anova Books, and they offered me quite a low sum. It was something like 500 advance plus 5% of the total book receipts, and I decided that was too low, so I negotiated them up to 2.5%, or just got a larger advance, £1,000 plus only 2.5%. So I've never received any royalties for that book. Now, New in Chess were then very unhappy with me because I'd sent them the book, and I assumed they'd lost interest because they hadn't really replied for ages. And I needed money like straight away. Right? I didn't have much money at that time, which is kind of basically the problem now. So they decided they were very unhappy with me. They said you're not going to write any articles for our magazine again, and I've never written for them ever since. I had written some articles for their magazine, which had been reasonably well received. Anyway, so the next book I wrote after that, I believe, was Play Chess Like the Pros, which I think was for Everyman or a company like that. There was John Ems was involved in the development of that book, um, and that was reasonably successful. The problem with Calculate Like a Grandmaster, so they decided on Calculate Like a Grandmaster um, as the title because Batsford had published this book. I don't know if they were the original. They probably weren't the original publisher of Think Like a Grandmaster by Alexander Kotov, but certainly they sold a lot of copies of that book, and they decided that this is going to be like a good title because that titles sell books. And the other problem is it wasn't really edited very well, so it looked like a bit of a mess. And obviously, I had no experience of writing. I just did it on spec. They decided to publish the book. So then I did Play Chess Like the Pros, and then I approached Quality Chess, and it ended up writing a book for them called Making the Castle King. So I suggested a book project, but Jacob Agar replied to me and he said, well, actually, we got this project that this guy Yuri, I think it was Yuri, an Israeli guy, had started work on, but he hadn't quite completed it. He was going to give it to Andrew Greet, but Andrew Greet, he said, you're a more natural attacking player than Andrew Greet, so therefore we'll give the project to you. So I wrote the book, and actually that ended up being my most successful book in terms of royalties. In fact, it's the only book I've ever received any royalties for, even though I've written 10 chess books. I believe that's the only one I've ever received any royalties for, which is kind of shocking. But I got lucky enough a few years ago, so it was published about 10 years ago, and a few years ago I got a message from Adam Ashton's wife, Crystal, on Facebook, and she said this Chinese publishing company is doing a vote on which books they want to translate into from the Western, from English into Chinese, and she said, I've nominated your book. It was very kind of her, right? Anyway, my book won the vote, which is very lucky, and Making the Castle King. It'd already been reasonable success anyway. I think I'd received some royalties for it. It had actually been translated into Italian as well. And it'd also been made into a Chessible course, which was reasonably successful as well. So I think the first few days that it was released, I think it probably sold like something like 4,000 copies, which is crazy. And I was getting like a tiny percentage of that because the Chinese publishers had to pay me and Quality Chess like something towards publishing rights, and we'd also receive a payment on every. We do also receive a tiny percentage on every book that was sold. So it was actually one of the first books in 20 odd years. I think one of the first Western chess books to be translated into Chinese. So eventually the publishing company in China, they did send me a copy of the book, and it was like they made it into 2 volumes. So the original book was actually 1 volume. They made it into 2 volumes. All these nice drawings inside there, kind of like Chinese type drawings. And I was very happy with that. So overall, obviously, if every chess book was like that, I probably would have made quite a success of being a chess writer. But unfortunately, the sales in chess books in general are quite poor. Now, Quality Chess have quite a high bar about what books. I tend to write a lot of books on spec, and they have quite a high bar on what they expect from the author. It needs to be very well edited by the author themselves. They also have an editing process themselves. But I ended up, around about the pandemic, I ended up publishing some books with Thinkers Publishing, which is run by a Belgian guy called Daniel. It's also set up by Romain Edouard, who's a French grandmaster. Has been over, I think he's been actually 2,700 before, and he wrote a very famous book himself called My Magic Years with Topalov, where he explained how he worked as Topalov's trainer and second. And that was a very well received book. So I'll show you what these books have actually sold on Amazon. So I don't see the sales of some of these books, but for example, The Comfort Zone, I think that sold about 700 copies overall, which is disappointing, to be honest. Maybe advertising hasn't been good enough. But I just think in general, the whole chess book market is very saturated now. It's the same problem when you go on Chessible, for example. Chessible, you get your book on the front of the website, but after a few days it drops off. So the onus is on you to promote the book yourself. If you're a very big name, it's a little bit like in the normal publishing world. If you're a very big name, you can then sell a lot of copies potentially. If you're a Levi Rosnum, obviously his book is How to Win at Chess or whatever it's called, has been extremely successful. It's one of the biggest. I think it's number 2 currently in Amazon chess books. Obviously you can do well. I think someone like Jonathan Rowson's probably done well as well because his books have been extremely well received, like 7 Deadly Sins, Garry Kasparov, obviously. If Garry Kasparov, he's done these books on my great predecessors, I imagine they've sold very well. Magnus Carlsen. However, for a lot of authors like myself, it's difficult to make really good sales. So I've often wondered if that's You know, often people said to me, "Oh, you're a really good writer," and so on. But you know, maybe I'm an acquired taste, and yeah, this is a problem. I'm often writing the way that I'm writing is for myself. You know, I've always written that way. I've not tried to dumb down or anything like that. I've tried to be as honest as possible. Um, I should also mention I wrote a book called A Year in the Chess World, which was published by Arcadia Neidlich's company, and that was well received, but the sales again weren't very good. So I think the fact that quality chess, although they get a lot of criticism from other publishers and other sources, um, at times, they are quite good at exploiting different revenue streams and getting the book to be as popular as possible. Sometimes you have to go with Chessible, and even though as a publisher you might not like doing that, it can often be a useful way to bump up the sales and obviously getting those translations as well. And the Comfort Zone hasn't done particularly well, but was reasonably well received. It received 4.5 out of 5. So we see here that it's 1,464,000. Now I type this into Google, and if you sell something like if you're something like 1,500,000, that means your book is selling almost nothing, right? Maybe 3 a month. So over the course of a year, you're going to sell about 30 or 40 books if you're lucky. You might not be selling anything at all, of course. So that means that's on Amazon. Bear in mind that Amazon is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, source of sales for any chess book. But again, it's saturated because there's so many books there. You know, there's like 3,000 chess books, far more than 3,000 chess books out there. Let's have a look at some of the other sales that I've done. So I've done Scheveningen. I'll leave a link to all these books below as well, or as many of them as I can. If anyone's in, please buy these books, because any kind of interaction where I'm, where I'm selling, chess books, where this is my advertisement really, and it's difficult to get those sales. And I put a lot of work into these sales. I'll be honest, I wasn't totally happy with this book, and partly because I felt like I tried to attack it from a different aspect where um, I I didn't really do like a full repertoire. I just basically approached it as if you're a beginner and how you would look at the opening. But I wasn't completely happy with the end product. I think I could have done a better job, but it's not a bad book. I mean, it's got reasonable rating. You know, it's 5. It's only had 1 rating. Calculate Like a Grandmaster. That's the first one I did. Pandemic Shark was another popular one. Now, this book, Tournament Battle Plan, I was actually pretty happy about this book. But this shows the whole rating system is a little bit. I'm more happy about that book than I was about the Scheveningen book. But it's only got 1 star. So somebody said they think this is rubbish. The pandemic gives rise to vastly underrated junior and amateur players. Online chess taking a much more prominent role. Yeah, I'm not sure about this. I don't think I wrote this. No, I think I possibly did write. I wrote most of the blurbs for this book, for my books, but it's only got 1 rating. So if you own a copy of this book and you quite like the book, please jump on Amazon and give it some kind of rating, because at the moment it's got 1 out of 5. That's not going to help the sales at all. If somebody comes on, it's like if I see a film and it's got 1 out of, on Rotten Tomatoes, it's got 24%, and I see another film's got 80%, I'm going to go and watch the film that's got 80%. So the same thing here. People aren't going to buy this book based on that rating. So that's another problem. I think some of my books have a review as well. So for example, Pandemic Shot, it's had some nice reviews. Was it Pandemic Shot? One of these books had nice reviews. Yeah, I thought this is a very nice review. Possibly some reviews on Amazon are fake and from the publisher themselves, but I don't think this one was. This is by John H. Cassidy, who's based, I believe, in the United Kingdom. He says, No, it says it's in Sydney. After not pushing a pawn for 30 years, the writing, Twitter feeds and broadcasters of folks like Gormally got me interested again, or Gormally as it's pronounced correctly, during the pandemic. I can't recommend this book highly enough and got it sent over to Sydney as soon as it came out. Unlike most chess books, it actually feels like it's been written by a human and gives actual practical suggestions for his players far better than me think. As someone who's been dusting over the cobwebs and now back over the board, I found in helpful and entertaining. He means it helpful and entertaining, I presume. Daniel Gormally, this is by Pocket Satire, being a chess professional. Daniel Gormally gives a good sense of what it's like to be a chess professional in England today. Unlike most writers on chess, Gormally is prepared to show weaknesses in both his personal behaviour and professional play. This makes for a far more rounded portrait and a more enjoyable read. His notes of the games are pertinent and easily accessible to the club player. In this book, he finally works out that it's better not to play with a hangover. Very nice review. Alan Hodgkinson wrote, enlightening without being stuffy, 5 stars. Danny Gormally's style is enlightening for regular club players as well as those who are simply interested in the chess world. Written by a current top GM competitor, this is accessible without being patronising. There are innumerable clear insights from someone who is a regular streamer and commentator, as well as a successful chess coach. Recommended. And Various wrote, original insight from the fourth Reich Grandmaster, the changes, difficulties and opportunities created by a COVID lockdown and the Queen's Gambit boom. Unique writing from Mr. Gormally. So those are really nice reviews, brilliant reviews, and that's kind of why you write these books partly. You know, people enjoy it. Also, I was at the Ghent Chess Festival a few days ago and I signed some copies of the book. People I met were lovely, really nice people. So very happy about that. One thing I would say, that's why I wrote the Scheveningen book, was because it's an opening book. And I figured out, well, hang on, I'm getting bad sales. People are getting great sales. And I'm jealous of these other authors that are getting great sales on opening books. Well, I'm writing all these kind of like navel-gazing type books about how dreadful it is to be a chess professional, which apparently are entertaining but aren't really selling. Because people want these books about, you know, about specific opening theory. If you write a puzzle book, that's probably going to sell well as well, right? So it's a conundrum as a writer that you want to do something that's creative, that's interesting, but at the same time you got to get like money on the table, right? So I probably will be carrying on doing the chess writing for the time being. However, I'm kind of also getting a little bit burnt out by the whole process because, you know, like I say, it takes 3 or 4 months to write a book, and you're only going to get, you know, based on my recent experience, you're only going to get £2,000 or £3,000. You're not going to get much more than that. So maybe I'm going with the wrong publishers. I don't know. Or maybe maybe I should be self-publishing. That's another option. Anyway, please leave me comments down below. What do you think about this video? Because obviously it's quite a thought-provoking subject. The whole publishing aspect. Sites like Amazon have made it much more easy and accessible to write this stuff. I was reading a book called The Everything Store, very good book actually, about Jeff Bezos. Gives, I would say, a rounded portrait of Jeff Bezos, possibly slightly biased towards him, but also talks about the negative side. But you know, at some point they might cut out the publishers and just print these books themselves. You know, that's essentially what it's gravitating towards. And of course they've already got the Kindle, so you can also find these books on Forward Chess, which I believe they publish on Kindle, right? And on other, also you can get probably that app on the mobile as well, and also on a laptop. So anyway, so those are I've also done some videos like the English Attack, where I filmed in Hamburg in Germany. There's a funny story behind that. I actually went to a bar and ended up getting mugged essentially. You know, when you go into like a bar with dancers, and the people in Chess Space, the studios, they found it hilarious. But I was a bit drunk and I went to a bit of a dodgy bar, and they charged me €140 for a magnum of champagne. I said, well, I haven't got... No, it was €300 actually. I only had €140 on me. And the next day I went to the police station to complain about this, but I couldn't remember where the bar was. So I filled out a report, but because they told me at Chess Base, if you fill out a report and you tell them on that night, especially on that night, you know, you go back, the police will go back to that place and they'll demand the money back. You can actually get your money back, but I couldn't remember where the bar was, and I just remember the people in it being arseholes. That's all I remembered. But this type of thing happens all the time, all over the world. And I wasn't the first person to be scammed like that. They turn up with a you know, saying you've ordered this bottle of champagne. I've never ordered it, but you know, you've got to pay because you're there by yourself, and they're these scummy sort of people. So other than that, it was a good experience though, filming that video. And I've also done done several videos for Chessible, which have been quite successful. So I did Mating the Castle King, but my most successful thing that I've done, even more than Mating the Castle King, was Sharp Middle Games, the first one, where I made over $20,000, mainly over the course of the pandemic, where the whole chess boom happened. And I was one of the first kind of grandmasters to publish a course on Chessible. And that was partly the reason why that course was so successful. I think if I published it now, I wouldn't get anything like the sales that it got. So anyway, that's my I think as well, it should also be noted, that's why a lot of title players, they don't bother to write chess books now. They just do Chessible videos, because generally the you know, for doing a book, you're getting 12.5% sometimes, right? That's the general number, 12.5%. If you do a sometimes some publishing companies don't pay any royalties. As explained before, you know, with the first book I did, I only pay like 2.5%. So you're never going to see any royalties, right? But Chessible, originally they were paying 50%. Now they're paying 40% because they sold some of the company to the Play Magnus Group, and the Play Magnus Group merged with the Chess.com. So that's why they only pay 40% now, but it's still a lot more than you would get with a book. So that's why a lot of chess authors, people like Anish Giri, I don't think Anish Giri's ever written a chess book, as far as I'm aware. Magnus Carlsen written one chess book, but that also got made into a Chessible course. If it hadn't been made into a Chessible course, he probably wouldn't have bothered. So anyway, that hopefully that explains to you a lot of the inside of what it's like to be an author, what you're actually getting when you're a chess author. If anyone's got any experience of self-publishing a chess book, please let me know in your comments below. Maybe I can do a follow-up video to this. Also, please like and subscribe so this video will get promoted on the algorithm. That would be very nice. Thanks a lot for watching the video.